Welcome to episode 67 of the Valley Sports Talk podcast. We are back again for another weekly NHL playoff. Well, not weekly because playoffs are going to end in like what, 3 weeks?
Something
Um,
like that soon
Close to
anyway.
that. But anyways, we're back for another weekly Valley Sports Talk episode. On today's episode, we are going to talk a bit about the conference finals as we have our four teams. It started last night, so you guys know. I think it's Florida and the Hurricanes that play on Thursday tomorrow night, right?
Yes.
We're actually recording this pretty well in advance, which is unlike us. Usually we're a last minute type of people. But we're good to get to recording. But as you guys are watching this, right when it comes out, Florida Hurricanes game one has already happened, and the Vegas Dallas game is happening tonight, the night you're watching it. So we're going to talk about that, and then me and Brandon are going to go in depth about the Oilers and Leafs, who both again had disappointing ends to their playoffs, in my opinion, and what they need to do moving forward, or what they are going to look like moving forward. So without further ado, let's get into our predictions. I believe I did pretty well. The only one I got wrong was the Florida one. I had Toronto.
I'm trying to think.
Did you have
You
you had
picked you
Oilers?
picked
You had Oilers.
Vegas.
I picked Vegas, yeah. I took Vegas in six and I got that one right.
So I was 3 for 8 in the first round and 1 for 4 in the second. Sheesh.
You took Seattle?
Oh, I must have taken the Stars. I can't remember now.
With that your one, that might have been your one then. I think you took Dallas because you got Toronto wrong. You took the Devils.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went one for the only one you got right was Dallas.
Yeah, so I'm 4 for 12.
Yeah, I got three right. The only one I got wrong was the Toronto series.
That's crazy, eh?
That
Betting on
puts
the
me
Leafs.
that
What a
puts me eight.
mistake.
I'm 8 for 12.
What a mistake.
What a mistake. So yeah, I'm 8 for 12. You're 4 for 12.
Yeah.
A tough go at these predictions. Um, so yeah, well, I guess we'll jump right into predictions and we'll banter a bit about the Leafs and Oilers. Um, so let's start in the West. We have Vegas, who defeated Edmonton. I know a lot of people, I think Edmonton were probably the favorites, and a lot of people were taking Edmonton, but they sort of put that to rest. And I think no really those games are very close. All the games were I think we said this last episode before the series ended, that none of the games were really close, but I found it the most entertaining series to watch.
Oh, 100%. It was like the highest amount of goals in games, and like you said, it was dirty, and it just like you said, the games weren't close. So I don't know, it was a close series, but it wasn't at the same time. So
Yeah, that was
very
weird.
interesting.
But yeah, I had Vegas in six. I got that right. You had Oilers. I don't even know what you had Oilers in. I think it was six or seven.
Seven,
Seven. Okay.
seven.
You're one game away, possibly. And then on the east side, we have the Hurricanes and the surprise eight seeded, in quotations because there's no actual eight seed, but eight seeded Panthers, who took care of business against your Leafs.
Yeah, did they ever? Yeah, that series. I mean, we're gonna get more into it in a bit, so I don't want to get too far into it. But goddamn, they look really quick. They're getting goaltending at the right time. Um, I mean, I think the break they got is going to be very helpful for a veteran like Bobrovsky. Um, I do have Carolina winning this series. I don't know if that's bias in me but I mean, Carolina just looks really good, and I don't know. What do you think? I think,
I was actually gonna go underdog. I was gonna take Florida in this series. I don't know why.
yeah.
I've been going Hurricanes since like the first round, but I don't know why. I think that I said it coming up against Boston. I think that this Florida team is a team that's built for the playoffs. They had a pretty disappointing regular season. They just barely slipped in over Pittsburgh. But I don't know, this weird feeling in me felt like they were built for the playoffs, and I everybody kept doubting them. I had them beating Boston. I had that right, but then I had the Leafs. But they've probably, in my opinion, they took out the two toughest teams on the East side. In my opinion, at least in the first two rounds, like they came up against the top two teams that I would have ranked from strongest teams in the playoffs. So I feel like I'm gonna like stop. Everybody's gonna be taking the Hurricanes, but I just have a feeling that I think this Florida team is built for this moment, and I think that they're gonna be like the one of the first eight seeds to ever make the Stanley Cup final. I'm gonna go Florida in seven.
Well, they're probably going to because I picked Carolina, but are they not reminding you of like the LA Kings? Like they were the eighth seed. They had when they won the cup in what was it, 2014 or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, and they were the eighth seed, and they had Jonathan Quick who really made it like he was good, but he really made a name for himself in that playoff run. Just like Bob already is one of the best goalies. I mean, he's making 10 million bucks, but he didn't have a great season, and I mean, he's really making his contract worth it. He's a playoff performer. We saw him against Tampa a couple of years ago. Now Boston and Toronto. He's taken out some pretty big dogs in his career in the playoffs. So, and the team obviously eight seed rolling through having the hardest schedule, and they're making. I mean, obviously Boston went seven, but they made quick work of Toronto, and I mean, if they can handle Carolina, they really remind me of an LA Kings team.
definitely, totally. And then moving over to the West, we have Dallas. I was honestly, I was convinced that if Seattle was going to beat Dallas, I was going to take them going all the way. I don't know why. I just had a feeling that if Seattle came out of this, I was going to take them over the Golden Knights. But now that it's Dallas and the Golden Knights, I'm going to go Dallas because they were my Stanley Cup prediction at the start of the playoffs. Going to roll with them and go Dallas in six.
See, I kind of want to go Dallas as well. I would have probably before watching Game Seven of Seattle, I probably would have picked Vegas, but like I was talking to you like a week ago or something. Ottinger is the best goalie left in this playoffs, and he had a very shaky series against Seattle. Um, he got pulled, I think, twice in that series. But being able to come back and have a game seven like that, I don't know if you actually watched the game, but
Watch the highlights. Didn't watch it live.
Dallas played a great game in front of them. Seattle had 15 shots in the first two periods, and I think they had four shots in the third period. The third period, it was, which is good for Dallas because they were winning 2-0. It was the most boring period of hockey I've ever watched. It was dump in by Seattle, quickly broken out by Dallas, dump back into Seattle zone, and just rinse and repeat. Dallas gave them no room to skate. And but Ottinger, I mean, even though he faced like 19, 20 shots in the game, he played amazing. The one goal he allowed was kind of a weird bounce in the dying seconds of the game. And if he can play like that, I think they got a very large goalie advantage in this
Yeah, I
series.
was just about to
And
mention the goalie, the question mark at goalie. Like I know they beat the Oilers, they went against McDavid, Draisaitl, and even with like Aiden Hill starting, Brossoit got hurt. But at the same time, I think it's still a question mark. I think these guys are players that they're not starters. They can have a go cold at any moment.
yeah, exactly. I think Ottinger's definitely the biggest key to this series. And if he's playing well, they're definitely going to win this one. But I mean, so now you're going to be one for two because I said Dallas with you. So
Okay, so
at least you got one.
it's gonna be Vegas, Florida if everything's going off
Vegas, Florida.
what we're doing. It's gonna be a Vegas, Florida finals, which would be a pretty, I don't know. I feel like it'd be a boring final. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
It could definitely, if Bob keeps playing the way he does,
You know what? If Vegas and Florida go to the finals, there'll be a team that have never won the Stanley Cup winning the cup though.
which is always nice to see.
Vegas
So
and Florida are the two teams left in here that have never won a cup before. Obviously, Vegas just entered the league like what, 5, 6 years ago.
yeah, something like that.
Florida was in the 90s, so you never know. Anyways, so to recap, I have Dallas in six. What do you have? What did you say series going to?
I Vegas is home ice, so Yeah, it's gonna have to be Dallas in 6. They're gonna win at home.
6. And then I took Florida in 7. I have Florida upsetting again in a game 7 at the away barn.
I'm gonna have Carolina in 6 as well.
6.
Both series going 6.
Cool. Getting off that, we have the two Canadian teams that were left. Both of them, I think you can agree, both were pretty disappointing. Considering a lot of people had an Oilers Leafs final.
It was
I
favored. They were the two favorites
I know a lot of
after the
people,
first round.
yeah, I know a lot of people had that. So you can more talk about what the Leafs, what happened in the Leafs. I'll sort of talk about the Oilers, but what happened in the Leafs series? Why are they eliminated? Why did they lose to an 8 seed in your eyes?
The Leafs just didn't have that knockout punch. I feel like they like if you look at the deservometer, which they show every game, and I hate it because it means absolutely nothing. It's the playoffs. No one cares about that. You just everyone cares about the end result. That's it. But the Leafs in the deservometer won every single game except for game 3, I think it was. Um, but they didn't have the knockout punch. Game 1, they came up to a quick 2-0 lead. It's a great start to a series. And they ended up losing that game. That lose a lot of momentum. They come out flat in their second game at home. And then you're down 2-0. You're going away, which you haven't lost yet up to that point. You think they're going to come out with their best game of the series, best game of the year, and they came out flat again. You go down 3-0, and it's not even like you have a lot to show for it. It could be like, yeah, we're down 3-0, but we've competed. They hadn't even competed up to that point. Um, Game 4, I thought it was the hardest they played, even in both series. I thought that was the best complete 60-minute game. That's what the Leafs missed. I shouldn't say knockout blow. It was a complete 60-minute game. I don't feel like they ever played a 60-minute game. Even the wins against Tampa, it was third period comeback, third period comeback.
I
And it's just they finally played a full 60 minutes and they still barely won that game. And I just Florida was too much for them. Florida was quick. Florida was tough. A lot of people said there was a lot of missed calls, but like that's just gonna happen. You have to have mean guys on your team. Calls they don't happen in the playoffs. I mean, like you gotta just look at how it that's how it is. Like if you look at teams that are really good, they have not just mean guys. Like people say, yeah, Toronto got mean guys at the deadline, but like you got Lafferty, Achari, those are fourth line guys. If you look at Stanley Cup winning teams last year, Colorado, McKinnon's mean. You go to Boston, like their top line is all mean. Like even Pittsburgh, Sidney Crosby's pretty mean himself. Like you
Gino's,
got
yeah, you know,
Gino's mean. Every like Tampa, their top line mean. Like Kucherov's mean. Stamkos is mean. Point for being small, he's mean. Like they need that. They need a top guy
that
that's mean. And
edge.
Bunting was not that. He went over the edge and didn't really come back from that.
Yeah, I agree. It also doesn't help that that your top player didn't score a goal the whole series. I'm not saying that like, oh, people are saying he wasn't playing fully healthy, but whenever a player like that the caliber like Matthews is, you expect him to score in a 5 game series. I think it was the
100%.
first time in his in throughout the whole season that he went 2 games in a row without scoring, and then this time he went 5 games. Um, we'll get into him when we talk about the cap, but it's just disappointing for a player like him who is expecting to get paid. He wants to get paid this offseason from what he said in his last like whatever locker room cleanout day that he wants to get paid this summer. It's kind of hard to justify paying him the max whatever the highest AAV that in the league after he just came off a second round without scoring a goal. I know he had a decent first round. You said he set a record for like most points or something in a row or something on those
Him and
lines.
Riley, this playoff run, both went 8 games in a row with a point, which is the Leafs record in the
Least
playoffs.
record, but he's there to score goals. He scored 60 last year. You might disagree, but for me, I think it's hard to justify paying him over like 14 mil if he's just gonna sort of not disappear, but his goal scoring gonna disappear in round two.
Yeah, that's what I hate about like I know I'm a Leafs fan, but I hate that's what I hate about Leafs fans in general. It's like he's probably playing hurt. Well, one, we don't know that because we haven't found that out yet. And even if he is, it's the playoffs. Everybody's playing hurt.
Everybody's playing hurt in the playoffs.
If you're
Nobody's 100%
if you're
in the playoffs.
exactly if you're tying your skates on, do your job. Do your job.
100%. I
The
also
only thing I will say,
go ahead,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. You're on the. I'm gonna change the
Just
topic.
like I don't want to be one to like complain about calls, so I will never complain about a call in the playoffs. The only thing I am a little upset about, which again I'm going to preface this by saying it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the series probably because Toronto didn't deserve to be there. But like I've seen a lot of stuff going around, and I totally agree with it. In tennis, you see they have like technology in the ball where you see if it's in or out right away, and they show it even right on your screen, like right away.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
In
about.
soccer, um, I guess referees have watches on that ding if a ball goes through over the line, which I didn't even know about, but that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Like, how does hockey like how do we not know if that puck went in or not? How
I
do we
think
not
also,
have
I
we have like sensors in the puck that tell you how hard of a shot someone takes. At the end of the day, I don't care if Gudis is shooting a 94 mile per hour shot or a 96 mile per hour shot. I'd rather like there's got to be some sort of technology they can find out if that's over the line or not.
I agree with you that they should be able to put a sensor. The one thing I'll argue against going like your hockey, your soccer and tennis is that the nets are a lot bigger and there's no like padding. So like in tennis, you can see it automatically because there's nothing that's gonna have a chance to hinder that view. Where in the view that I'm pretty confident I know what call you're talking about, but the fact that like there was no angle to like show 100% that Bobrovsky's pad was over it. I agree. I disagree with that part that it's harder to tell. But I totally agree that if we have the technology to know how fast the puck is traveling, why can't sort of a new technology be put in along the goal line that sort of tells you if the puck like crossed the line, you know what I mean? Kind of like a finish line, like a photo finish sort of,
That's no, that's what I'm saying because I'm totally agreeing with what you're saying. There's too much padding on
and such a small net.
players that we will never be able to see if a puck goes in or not in that situation because you just can't get a camera angle to see that stuff. But there's got to be a way you can calibrate a chip in a puck to the red line on a net and see if that thing's fully crossed or not. There's got to be a way.
That'd be interesting to see if they did have the technology for that right now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, it's I'm not that Leafs fan that's saying like refs cost us the
That changed.
series
That was
because
also wasn't
we
that
would have
also
lost the
in like
series.
game five? You were already
That
down
that
three.
was game five. That would have put them up by one. Well, that would have tied the game, and then Willie's goal with 5 minutes left that eventually did tie the game would have been the
What
winner. So
winner if it all still
yeah.
happens, yada yada
So
yada.
I'm
Yeah.
not that Leafs
The
fan. I
big the
know
big what
there's
if,
a
a
lot
big
out
what
there.
if, a big what if.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Staying on the Leafs, we were just talking about Matthews underperforming. I also hate the Leafs fans that immediately are like trade Marner. I would argue that this season Marner was your guys' best player. Matthews had a down year. Obviously, whenever you score 60 goals the year before, it's kind of hard to keep relive that. And I think he hurt for a bit this year.
Marner?
No, Matthews. Did he miss a bit of time?
Yeah, Matthews missed time.
Yeah, I would argue that Marner was your guys' best player throughout the season, regular season, and playoffs. And the fact that people are just jumping on the fact that they're the bandwagon to trade him is crazy. He's a 26-year-old guy who's making like just over 11 mil, and people are calling for his head to be traded. I don't know, just doesn't sit well with me.
See, I'm not asking him to get traded, but I am one of the Leafs fans that think I watched my last game as Mitch Marner in a Leafs uniform. It's not that I want him to get traded. If you look at the four, he makes the most sense. Yes, I honestly agree with you. I think Mitch Marner is the best player on this team, but William Nylander just put up 40 goals, making less than $8 million a year. He's making less than $7 million a year, sorry. You're not gonna trade him. You're not gonna get good value for him. Austin Matthews, I mean, he's the cover boy. He's
I don't think there's no way you can trade him.
That's what I'm saying. You can't trade,
In
and then
in
and
my
John
eyes,
Tavares has a
he's a
John
no
Tavares has a
move
no
clause.
trade clause.
It's Marner or Nylander,
And
100%.
I
That
don't think I think you'll get a lot more like if Mitch Marner is 100% of what you're giving, I think you'll get closer to 100% back than you will with Nylander.
I
I
totally
think if
agree.
you trade Nylander, you lose the trade.
I think if you trade Marner, you lose the trade more. I think you
I
can
think
find
yeah.
I think you can find a trade with Nylander where you are getting some back while also possibly getting still some cap space.
I don't know who you're going to trade Nylander for. That's just as good as Nylander for less than $7
I'm not
million a
saying
year.
I'm not saying that you're gonna get someone as good as Nylander. I think that if you trade Nylander, you're trading him to change it up and get maybe someone making around 2 to 3 mil and then gaining maybe 3.5 mil in cap space.
Yeah, but then what's the point of having 3 million cap? The free agency cost this year is terrible.
Yeah, I know,
There's
but
not a whole
I just don't like I see I think you get way more value with Marner, but I think he's more valuable if Toronto moving forward than Nylander.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do believe somebody is getting traded this off season.
There's no way you can run it back again.
And I think it's gonna happen soon. Obviously, like we don't know if Kyle Shanahan's gonna be a Leaf. We don't know if
Kyle
Dubas is gonna
Shanahan?
be
You
a
mean
Leaf.
Dubas?
Did I say
You said
Brandon
Kyle
Shanahan?
Shanahan.
Well, I meant the two of them, Brandon
Brandon
Shanahan
Shanahan and Kyle
and
Dubas.
Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe. But the Leafs are kind of in a time crunch here because Mitch Marner and I believe William Nylander, or maybe it's Austin Matthews. Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews.
Marner's got this year coming up and next year
Yeah,
after.
but
Nylander and Matthews are both going into a contract year.
the thing is, um, on July 1st,
The
Mitch Marner
no move
and
clauses,
Austin
no move
Matthews
clauses.
have
Yeah, I
no
saw
move
that.
clauses.
They
So
they, they start, yeah.
it's not like the Leafs have all summer to figure this out. They have to figure out in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if they are going to continue with Kyle Dubas or if they're going to move on from Kyle Dubas. And then the general manager after that has to decide if they don't want to keep the core four together, they have to trade one of them before July 1st, or it's not going to happen. If all four of these guys are on the team July 1st, they're all staying on the team. So
Does Nylander
this
have a no
Leafs
move
offseason,
clause?
pardon,
Does Nylander have a no move clause?
I'm not 100% sure.
It should say on
But
cap friendly.
um it doesn't, where would I see that?
It'd be in their contract detail. Maybe
Oh,
it
he
doesn't.
does not.
Pays not. So let's if everybody's on the team past July 1st and somebody's getting traded, that automatically puts Nylander as the odd man out.
Yes, probably. But at that point, I think if they're still there July 1st, I think they're going to stay there, to be honest. I think if you're going to see a trade from the Leafs, it's going to happen before the draft, and the draft is coming up very quickly. So the Leafs off season is
Soon.
it's going to be crazy very quick.
Very
um yeah, I don't know if you want to go through free agents and tell me what you think's going to
Yeah,
happen.
we can go through them real quick before we talk about Edmonton, where they go forward.
Okay, so you have obviously you have Joseph Woll who played very well, but you have Ilya Samsonov who's an RFA, who did
But
say
he
today
did
that
say
he
that he
would like
wants
to
to
stay there.
stay. But
Pardon?
the thing that concerns me is how much is he going to ask? Because he had a pretty good season, he had a decent playoffs. How much is he going to ask, and can you afford that while also improving your team skaters wise?
Yeah, I agree. It's going to
The
be
one
tough.
thing is he is an RFA, and teams may do the old they may pull a Kotkaniemi and offer him a big AAV for like 1 year.
Well, in that case, if you do that, you leave it, right?
You take the compensation.
You let them have it. Um, and then you go to defenseman. We'll run through this quick. Eric Gustafson.
I say you bring him back. I think he was actually pretty good in the games he got in.
Yeah, I think he was very good as well. I just think he'll be gone. Luke Shen.
I thought he had a really good playoffs. I think you try to on your defense for free agent wise. I know who else is coming up as free agents. I think he's your number one priority on the defensive end to bring back.
I totally agree. He should be the one guy you're focusing on a bunch. And then the last guy, big bad Justin Hall.
Send him to the stars or like the moon. Send him to the moon. I don't know. He's not an NHL defenseman in my eyes. He is terrible.
You know what though? He will be an NHL defenseman next year, but it will not be for the Leafs.
Better not be. The Leafs if the Leafs re-sign him, you guys should start a riot.
Oh man, if we resign and fire whoever the general manager is at that point. Moving to forwards, we got Wayne Train.
I think he'll retire.
I think he retires too, and I'm hearing a lot of things. He might join Jason Spezza in the management for the Leafs here.
Gotcha.
Zach Ashton Reese.
You know, he's not gonna be worth a lot, and he brings that defensive penalty killing game. I know he was in and out of the lineup in the playoffs because he was like the 13th forward, but he's not gonna hurt you. He's not gonna cost more than $1 million. You sign him on a PTO this year. I don't know. I don't, maybe he doesn't come back, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt you if you do sign him back. He's a good depth forward.
Yeah, exactly. You can never really predict fourth liners, but I
You
think
never have enough
he
depth.
didn't hurt the team, that's for sure. Um, Nola Chari.
I like him. I think you try to bring him back on a smaller deal.
Nola Chari was great. If you can get him back, he led the playoffs in hits through the first two rounds. If you can bring that back, for sure. David Camp.
I actually thought he was pretty good. He's a defensive first forward. He was great on draws. I saw that there was one game he only lost one draw the whole game and he took like 14. Like he was like 13 for 14 on draws. He's just there to kill pennies and draws. He's not really an offensive forward. So again, he's a fourth liner and like you said, you can't really predict fourth liners.
Yeah, I think he was really good on the Leafs. Unfortunately, with his face-off percentage and his defensive game, I think he might make a little bit more than the Leafs are willing to pay. So that would, I don't think he'll be back. Alex Kerfoot.
I think he's gone. You know, he was in trade rumors for a lot of the last 2 years. I just don't think he really has a spot on this Leafs team. He was up and down the lineup. He was on the fourth line, then he was on the top six. And when he was on the top six, he really wasn't noticeable. So I think it's sort of time to move on from the Kerfoot.
Yeah, I totally agree. Unless he's going to take a pay cut. He didn't really he didn't work out here. It wasn't a good fit. I think getting some new scenery would be good for him. Michael Bunting.
I think he's gonna be too much for the Leafs to bring back. I'm not a big fan of him. I don't think he's that good of a player as he's gonna get paid, but he's getting paid like 750K right now, and I think he'll probably get up to 4.5 to 5 mil from another team easily.
Yeah, he's going to get a massive pay raise, and the Leafs just simply cannot afford that. Last one, Ryan O'Reilly.
I don't think he's back. I don't think the Leafs have enough to keep him. He, the Leafs are only paying him 2 mil on his salary because I think I think Arizona took on half his salary and then St. Louis took on the other third. He's still a really good player. I think he's close to like a $7 million player in my eyes, right around the William. I know he doesn't score goals, but that's not him. He's a two-way forward. I just think it's way more than the Leafs have, unless he takes a massive hometown pay discount.
See, I actually think he will come back. He seems like a player that would take a bit of a pay cut. He did. I mean, I know every single person in the press conference says the same thing, but he did say he loves his place, wants to come back. He was obviously born here, so I think he would take a bit of a pay cut. Also, if you could sign him to like a 4-year contract, you could probably get the average down even more because you could spread it across a longer period of time. Um, so I think he'll be back, but that basically wraps up the Leafs. So we think, oh, I guess not. Which one of the do you think out of Willie, Mitch, John, and Austin, do you think all four of them will be back? If not, who do you think's gone?
I'm gonna stick to Nylander's the odd man out.
Nylander. See, I think Nylander. I think Marner's going to be gone.
Hmm.
What about upper management? Sheldon Keefe.
I think Keith's gone. I think you hold on to Dubas. I think he's done a bang up job in Toronto. It's just hasn't really like yeah, I don't think he's really made a bad trade in Toronto, except for the Nick Foligno one.
That and the Kadri trade, but Kadri kind of had to be traded because he kept getting suspended in the playoffs. Um, I agree. I think Sheldon Keefe is probably gone, which is going to be tough for Dubas because obviously they've been friends for a long time. They've come up with the systems together, but I mean, this job ain't easy. You got to make some hard decisions sometimes, and I don't think Shanahan will be gone, but I would kind of like to see a replacement there, but I don't think that'll
Leafs.
happen. Um, yeah, like I mean, the Leafs are just gonna get tougher. Obviously, they're gonna make the playoffs every year with the roster they have. It's more playoffs, right? Like
Yep.
they lost to the Capitals. Matthews' first year was like, okay, there we go. They got some experience, and they lost to the Bruins in 7 the year after, and then they fans were really expecting them to win. Lost to the Bruins again. Got embarrassed by the Blue Jackets. Embarrassed by the Canadians. Obviously, we saw what happened in the Lightning last year, and then they finally move on and get embarrassed by Florida. So we'll see, but
Mhm.
changes are coming for the Leafs, that's for sure.
Changes are definitely coming. You want to quickly talk about the Oilers?
Oh shoot, yeah, we're rambling.
They're rambling.
Let me get on to Edmonton real quick. I
I'll
just
just
want to
talk about what
say,
went wrong. The thing that went wrong for me is I think McDavid and Draisaitl's defensive uh lack of defensive zone sort of got um exposed. I was looking at a stat and those two were -4 in this series, which is not good when you're the top two players in the world are -4 plus minus. In context, McDavid was even and Draisaitl was -4.
yeah,
So I mean, Drysdale was on for 4 more goals. But at the same time, a player that just scored 160 points, you expect him to be in the pluses for plus minus. And the one thing that I can say is I think that Edmonton finally has his goalie problem figured out. It's not Jack Campbell, even though you're paying him 5 years, 5 mil for the next 4 years. I fully think that Stuart Skinner is a franchise goalie there. It's just, ca I don't know, me rolling out McDavid and Draisaitl, you need to get a defensive forward. Like running him out there with like Nugent Hopkins or Evander Kane is not going to do it. That's too much offense, not enough defense. And then even on the back end, Edmonton's defense is still not that good. They are not a defensive defenseman. Darnell Nurse is getting paid 9.25 mil to look like a traffic cone out there. It's not good in Edmonton. I don't know. Having that locked up for 8 more years to look like a pylon out there is not good.
yeah. Obviously, their 5-on-5 was bad, and you know how playoffs goes. The whistles get put away, and if even if you're scoring 50% on the power play, if you can't score a 5-on-5, you're gonna have trouble winning in the playoffs. Um, Edmonton, their big guys are locked up. The only big guy that needs to be resigned, and the only defenseman on the roster that is unsigned right now is Evan Bouchard. I think
I,
he is going to get a massive payday.
it's not going to be from the Oilers though.
It has to be from the
I don't
Oilers.
think
He's
they have
only
the
20.
money. They've already have McDavid, Draisaitl, Nurse locked up. They have a bad Campbell contract now, who's getting paid 5 mil to back up Stuart Skinner. I just think that Edmonton needs to look elsewhere. Like Bouchard is a great defenseman. I think Edmonton should try to re-sign him. I just don't think they can.
I think they will make tons of moves to sign this guy. You can't let him go. I think you got to.
I agree, but I just don't see it happening.
Fair enough. Fair enough. They had a lot of fourth liners: Devon Shore, Ryan McLeod, Klim Kostin, Nick Bukestad, Matthias Janmark, Derek Ryan. Those are all bottom six players, all UFAs. Is there anyone you bring back?
Bukestad is a great depth center.
He played well.
He played well for them whenever he came over in the trade. I think McLeod's still young enough to bring back. I think he's only 24. I still think he can grow.
23. Yeah.
23 even better. It's just I don't know. It's the depth and the defense is what Edmonton needs and what they have been needing for a while. They just don't keep doing it. And you heard McDavid and Drysdale, they're both very frustrated in their post conferences after getting eliminated. This offseason is the biggest offseason in Edmonton Oilers history. Even when Gretzky was there, this is bigger. I fully agree that this is the biggest offseason in Edmonton Oilers history.
And I just want to end the podcast off on this because I feel like it's very interesting. You and me were at a party last year in the off season.
Were we?
There was a trade between the Florida Panthers and the Calgary Flames.
Oh, Huberto. Yeah,
Huberto
for
basically
Kachuk
for
and
Kachuk,
we
and we bashed Florida. We said Florida
did. We
loses this trade.
made a podcast episode called "What is Florida doing?"
Yeah, we did that, and We said Calgary's probably the best team in that division now. We both said Calgary got better from that trade, and Florida got considerably worse. Basically, what the Panthers did was sell high. They said, I don't think he's going to be able to do that again. He had a career year, so I know it's going to look crazy now, but I don't think it's going to happen again. Do the Oilers see an 100-point season out of Ryan Nugent
Ever.
Hopkins, or a career? No, I'm saying they just saw an 100-point year
Yes, I
out of
know. Yeah,
Nuge. They saw a massive year out of Hyman. Do you trade one of them and sell high?
100%. I think you have to. Hyman, maybe. I think that Nugent Hopkins' value is higher than Hyman's right now.
For
Um,
reference, Hyman's got 6 years, 5.5. Nuge has 7, 5.1.
like they're both getting paid around the same. I actually think that 5.1 is a good contract for Nugent Hopkins. I think he's after this 100-point season, he's probably going to be a bit overrated. But I think that that clears up some cap space. You're not gonna obviously it's 5.1. You're gonna want somebody decent back. Maybe, maybe it's a Nylander for Nugent Hopkins swap. Maybe we see
Yeah,
this. Maybe we see that.
I think the Edmonton's got to make a move. The same thing where we say, what are they doing? Just like we said about the Panthers, and maybe it works out. Also, Evan Bouchard is the same style of defenseman as Darnell Nurse, but 100,000 times better. I think even though Darnell Nurse makes a wallop of a contract, I think you got to try and move that because Evan Bouchard is a better Darnell Nurse 100 times out of 100.
Couldn't agree more. I think what right there we're gonna wrap it up though. We talked a lot
Oh,
about
quickly,
oh
I know we got less than a minute. Arizona probably not
oh
playing
yeah.
in Arizona
We'll
anymore.
talk we can talk more about that next week.
Yeah. Quick
I know
prediction, they're
more.
going to Utah, Salt Lake
I was
City.
gonna say Utah or I was gonna say I was also gonna say Houston.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that, we'll wrap it up. We did have a good talk today. And we will be back next weekend to next Friday to talk more playoffs. We'll see you then.
See ya.